Hey everybody, one sec. Let's turn some lights on in here. Ooh, got a fancy one. Didn't do much. Anyway, that's good enough. Today we're talking about metabolism. So I'm gonna go through and we're gonna talk about all things metabolism. So by the end of this call, you'll have a good understanding of what your metabolism truly is, what you can do to change your metabolism, and how to permanently change your metabolism. I'm also going to talk about um, what happens when you diet too hard and how that can cause issues with your metabolism, and also how missing the odd workout just really isn't a big deal. All right, so let's start off with some wins. So everybody who's here, comment your wins. My win is that we have a new bed to sleep on tonight, and I'm very excited about that. Um, we have a nice brand new king mattress, and really looking forward to a solid sleep tonight. Um, sorry, listening to my dog here. All right, so metabolism. Um, Metabolism is made up of several different components. So when people think metabolism, they often just think like, how fast they can um, metabolize food, but there's a lot more to it than that. So your metabolism, I'm going to break down some. I'm going to write it all in the chat here as I go, but there's some fancy terms that we're going to go over, and they all kind of work together here. So the first thing to understand is that when people are talking about their metabolism, what they're generally talking about is their basal metabolic rate, which is just one component of your entire like metabolic system. So um, your total daily energy expenditure is your TDEE, or your total daily expenditure is what your daily metabolic rate is. And that includes not just what your body needs to survive, but also what your body needs to conduct movement, go to the gym and exercise, how much energy it needs to consume and digest food. All of these things come together to create your total daily energy expenditure, which is the amount of calories that you burn in a single day across everything, which is your like full metabolism kind of profile. Right. So total daily energy expenditure is the calories spent in a day. I hit enter already. All right, there we go. So TDEE is made up of your, sorry, I'm writing and typing at the same time, your BMR, your NEAT, your EAT, and the TEF. So let's go over those terms right now. So BMR, like I said, is your basal metabolic rate. And your basal metabolic rate is how much energy your body needs to stay alive in a comatose state. One second, stay alive in a comatose state. So that means the energy that your body needs for your heart to continue pumping, for your lungs to keep breathing, for you to maintain your muscle tissue, to maintain your fat tissue, to recover from your daily processes and replenish your energy. It's everything that your body needs for your organs to survive, your digestion to continue, all of that sort of stuff. It is the bare minimum energy that you need to sustain life. So this isn't, your BMR isn't like it's not what you need to burn fat. This is what it, just to stay the same. This is what your BMR is. Okay. And that's the one that people are often, like I said, referring to when they want to like increase their metabolism or whatnot. That's the one that we can't immediately change. but we can change it in the long term. And I'm going to come back around to that. Let's go through the other terms here. So you also have your NEAT, which is your non-exercise energy, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Whatever. Might have spelled that wrong. So this is all the energy that you spend in a day just doing normal things, carrying out your daily activities of living, I'll say. So that includes, what I'm doing now. Talking uses energy, hand gestures, facial expressions, walking to places, standing up, sitting down, going up and down the stairs, thinking, all of that stuff. That is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's all the stuff all the activity that you're doing in a day that's not exercise. Then obviously, if your NEAT is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, your EAT is your exercise activity thermogenesis. Genesis. Oh, I'm failing my spelling right now. And this is all the energy you spend with specifically exercising. So your workouts, any sort of cardio, when you go play sports, anything like that, that is your EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis. And the last one we have is the thermic effect of food. And that's the energy you spend eating and digesting. All right, there, got all those in there. So let's go over all of them a little more thoroughly. We have those four components that make up your overall metabolism. Your BMR is the biggest portion of that. It's probably, and all of these numbers are not hard numbers because it changes based on lifestyle, based on body tissue, all of that sort of stuff, but they're all relatively in the same ballpark here. So your BMR is going to be roughly somewhere around 50% of the energy, 50 to 60, even sometimes 70% of the energy that you require in a day. Now, that number changes depending on how much activity you have. Obviously, somebody who is very sedentary doesn't have a large NEAT or possibly even any real EAT, right? Somebody who's working out 5 days a week and works a construction job is going to have a very high EAT and NEAT because they're very active all day long with their job requirements and their habits, right? So that changes the percentage. And when I'm talking percentages, I'm talking the percentage of your TDEE, the total daily energy expenditure. So those percentages fluctuate based off of lifestyle. For what we're doing, I'm going to give you some rough kind of percentages that will be somewhat similar for everybody here because we know essentially because we look at this stuff. This is when we're tracking your steps. We're seeing what your steps are like. Obviously, we can't track hand movements. Some people like myself are hand talkers. Some people aren't. But it's going to be somewhere in the same ballpark, right? We know your EAT because we program the workouts for you. We assign the cardio for you. So we're creating the predictable numbers within that, right? Your NEAT is going to be the second biggest energy consumer of everything that you do. And it's going to be somewhere around 30%, 40%, depending. Like I said, BMR is going to shift. It could be 40%, 50%, 60%, but ballpark around 50%. Your NEAT is going to be somewhere around 30%, 30 to 40% of your energy expenditure in a day. Excuse me. And that's why it's important for us to track your steps and try to make each day kind of repeatable, because then we can predict what that NEAT looks like. And it is a huge part of your overall weight loss journey. You can hit every single workout, but if you're only walking 2,000 steps a day, that's a huge portion of your total daily energy expenditure that we could be utilizing in a much more efficient way. And just walking around isn't that hard. That's why we assign those step goals, because to get 10,000 steps, you just have to park further in parking lots. You have to take the stairs instead of taking elevators, go up the stairs instead of taking escalators. Simple little changes like that aren't exhausting. If you go up 2 flights of stairs, you can do that without having to eat a meal and recover, right? It's not a workout. And it's a very simple way to make a very meaningful change to your progress and your results. Your EAT, like I said, that's your exercise activity thermogenesis, and that only makes up like 5 to 15% of your energy expenditure in a day. Most of us here, it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 10%. We only do 4 workouts in a week. Most of us have little to no cardio. So when we're looking at over the course of 168 hours, a full week, and every single day you have your NEAT, every single day you've got to walk around, move around, talk to people, do all those things. Every single day, your body still needs to survive. Your BMR is not going to change, but your EAT on some days is not going to be there. You might not have an EAT, right? Because you didn't do a workout, it was a rest day. You don't have cardio, so you're not doing cardio, right? So that leaves 4 days for EAT to be a part of the picture, which makes it such a small portion of the actual energy expenditure. And then the last one is their TEF, the thermic effective food. We can't impact that on any sort of meaningful way at all, and it's somewhere around 10% of your energy expenditure in a day. Right? So that's just the TEF is what it takes for you to chew and emulsify food, swallow it, and then for your body to digest it and turn every little molecule into something usable. Break down the proteins into amino acids to convert it into energy, or to store it as fat tissue, or to refill your glycogen stores, whatever it is, right? That TEF is somewhere around 10%, and we're not going to be able to do anything to make any sort of change in that's going to be worthwhile, right? You could chew your food 10 times as much, but it's not going to. You might take your TEF from 10% of your TDE to 10.5%. So there's no point in really focusing on that. We only focus on your NEAT and your EAT, because those are the two variables that we can control. Now that we understand all of that, I want to highlight how little the EAT actually is. And we're talking snapshot of right now, 24-hour period, right? So if you were to miss one workout every now and then, it's not going to change your progress really any meaningful way overall. So I know there's a lot of people, and this was a fear of my own when I first started working out, and I didn't have all this knowledge and understand all of this. I thought if I missed a workout, if I missed 25% of my workouts, I missed 25% of my results. But that's not the way that it works. It's not at all the way that it works. And so on an immediate snapshot, missing a workout in a week isn't going to make a big difference. It's not going to be a meaningful change. Where we want that consistency, and we need that consistency, is, well, one, we want to keep each week predictable, but this is where you can actually change your BMR, right? So the basal metabolic rate, that rate that keeps you sustained and alive. Your muscle tissue requires 3 times the amount of energy at rest, just laying in bed, to maintain as it does for a fat cell to be maintained. So the more muscle you have, the more your BMR, or the higher your BMR is, the higher that rate is, because with more muscle comes more energy requirements to sustain that muscle. And that's where we see the long-term effects of the workouts. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that we stick to those workouts, why we're always focused on hypertrophy programming, because we want to increase muscle mass, which takes a long time. To put 5 pounds of lean muscle mass on, visually it looks incredible, but it also is very challenging and takes a long time to do. like over a year for the average person. And with that said, it does change your BMR, which means that you can eat more food without gaining fat. The more food that you can eat, the easier it is for you to start to lose fat. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more simply. Let's say your BMR requirement, we add everything up with your TDEE and everything. If your TDEE, we have you somewhere around 1,600 calories, and that's just to maintain yourself. Then when we start to cut food out to create that calorie deficit, we're getting down to 1,400, 1,300, 1,200 calories. I don't think anybody here is on 1,200 calories. But you can start to see how like 1,200 calories is not a lot of food. If you look at your day and see where, like what point of the day that you hit 1,200 calories, it's probably shortly after lunch. Like, it's that you're looking at, if you have 4 meals in a day, that's 4 meals at 300 calories, which is like barely any food at all. Now, if we increase muscle mass, bring that BMR level up, in your daily maintenance, your TDEE to stay exactly where you are is 2,000 calories. Then when we start going into a deficit, we're at 1,800 calories, you're losing fat, 1,700 calories, you're losing fat, 1,600 calories, you're losing fat. And it gives you more freedom to be able to enjoy more food, and just have a better overall experience. So the higher your BMR is, the more comfortable things are. And like I said, the more runway it gives you to continue decreasing calories to get to your ideal body shape. Right? If we have a nice long runway, if you can drop from 2,300 calories down to 1,500 calories, that's 800 calories down. But if you start at 1,800 calories, to drop 800 calories puts you at 1,000, and you're hardly eating anything in a day. Right? So this is why it's so important to continue the workouts. If you miss the odd one, not a big deal. Don't stress about it, but try to keep up with your workouts, because it's in the long run that's going to pay off. 3 months from now, when your BMR is higher and you're able to eat more food and lose weight at the same time, right? Now, what happens when you diet too hard? When you diet too hard, we have our body starts to create what we call metabolic adaptations. So essentially, what that means is that your body is going to start to try to preserve energy as much as possible. So if your TDE is 2,300 calories and you're immediately going down to 1,600 calories, you're in a huge caloric deficit because you want to lose weight as fast as you can. Like, you have heard this before, starvation mode, where it's going to start to have metabolic adaptations. And these are little changes in behavior that you don't notice. I was talking to another client about this today, and it's something that I've brought up with clients a few times. But when Casey goes into contest prep and her calories are getting really low, and her her body fat's getting really low, she's getting to that real nitty gritty place where she is getting really peeled. She has a ton of metabolic adaptations. She doesn't walk as much. When she talks, she often doesn't move. She looks dead ahead, and she talks to me like this without any real facial expressions. She actually talks a lot less. She uses less words. She doesn't use her hands at all. And it's not an intentional change. It's something that progressively happens. And this is at the extreme level. Right? Like, we're talking contest prep. We're talking sub double digit body fat levels. Like, she's peeled out of her mind. And so these adaptations are really visible because she's really, really pushing her body to get to that competition stage, right? On a smaller level, that happens where you won't notice it, but it'll be harder for you to get your daily steps in. You're not going to use your hands as much when you talk. You might not even have as many conversations. And when you're really hungry, you get hangry and irritable. You don't want to talk to people. And that's a part of it. All of these, like the NEAT, all of that stuff starts to downregulate because your body is just trying to maintain survival. And so you end up actually spending less energy in a day. Your TDEE, when it was at 2,300, now because of those metabolic adaptations, might be 1,900, because your NEAT and even your EAT and your TEF are going to decrease because you're not eating as much food, all starts to drop, and that makes the deficit, instead of being from here to here, the deficit shifts from here to here, where we could be a lot better off staying here and being here, where we can keep kind of chasing down, right? And then we can sustain that weight loss phase for much longer without having to run into issues or running out of runway to drop calories. And so that's how extreme dieting kind of shuts down your metabolism. It's fully recoverable. It's not going to be permanently damaging, but it is something that it takes your body some time to adjust to. And that's when we go into what we call a reverse. So I'm sure many people, have heard that term. A reverse is essentially reverse dieting. So we're getting out of diet phase and we're bringing the body back into, its full functioning, so that we're reversing the metabolic adaptations and getting you back to your normal energy levels, your normal activities. Last thing, I think that was it that we were going to talk about today. We can get real complex into metabolism. Like if you want to know a little bit more, ask Casey or I. There are things outside of this, medical things that cause the metabolism to downregulate that we need to address in different ways. So because it's relevant to a lot of the women here, menopause is one of those things. Your thyroid is responsible for about 80% of your metabolism and creating those metabolic processes. Basically, it's your thyroid is your control panel for your metabolism. It tells your body what your body needs. And if your thyroid isn't functioning well and it's not telling your body exactly what your body needs, then all of these things happen. Your metabolism slows down, that sort of thing. And so that's why if you've come onto the team and you have menopause, or you're on menopause, if you're in menopause, we always ask for lab work, and we're always asking about your thyroid. If your thyroid is low, weight loss is much more challenging and much slower. If we can add in a thyroid replacement and get your thyroid functioning properly, then we can get things moving a lot quicker again. There's also a bunch of hormonal imbalances that can change things. PCOS, stuff like that can make, like on the medical side of things, change your metabolism. And we deal with all of that sort of stuff. With my nursing background and all of Casey's experience and my experience, it's something that we know how to address, but I won't go into depth on that because it gets really complicated and there's not really a point, because it's different person to person, case by case. So we'll leave it there, but I hope that kind of gives you guys some more understanding of your metabolism and what's important, like what's critically important now versus later down the road. So like recapping, your EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis, is one of the smallest pieces. So from week to week, it's not going to be a big deal, but it's going to add up if you lack the consistency. It's really important to be paying attention to your NEAT, your NEAT, and your activities of daily living, sticking to your step count. Those are the things that often get put on the back burner. So like, steps, whatever, it's boring. That's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm hitting all my workouts, though, and I'm hitting my calories. But it's actually a huge component, and it's even more important in the immediate snapshot than your workouts, because it's going to burn more energy than your workouts will. So that's that. Let me know your biggest takeaway. If you're watching on replay, drop a win, drop your biggest takeaway. If you have any questions about this stuff, or you want to understand something more specifically, or something didn't make sense, message Case or I, and we will happily share the information with you and resources if we have any that are relevant to that question. All right. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again soon.